Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the College iRacing League, here presented by NextBookIt, and welcome back for round number 3 here at Le Mans. Week in and week out, these racers heading to various tracks across the world to prove their dominance in the collegiate realm. Up here in the booth once again with me is Josh Crane. Josh, welcome back to the booth. Good to see you.
Good to be here. It's been a pretty good adventure up to this point, but happy to be here and happy to be at Le Mans, half racetrack and half small country road, and a few chicanes sprinkled in. One half is very fast and very straight, and it's going to ask a lot of the aerodynamics and the drag of these cars, and the other half is going to ask a lot of the transitional abilities and the vehicle dynamics engineers and the guys putting these things together, setting these up, and then the drivers to be smooth throughout the race. I think we're going to see a lot of variety. We've seen some different cars. We know that the BMW recently is down on power, and we're starting to see some more Corvettes in the field, especially Jared Kaler, as well as UC Riverside, and that Corvette that you will see this evening. So, and that's Kevin Vu driving that car for them. So, certainly a ton of variety going on, and feels good to be back. And it feels good to be at such a storied track. It's the longest track we're going to be at in this season. A little over 8 miles, I think, and our lap times right now as we do qualifying are about 4 minutes. I believe I saw 3:49 on top of the leaderboard at one point, so I think we're in for a treat.
Absolutely, and that's what's so cool about this league, the Collegiate iRacing League, is we get people from all over the country coming here to race. You're gonna see their colleges across the bottom of the screen with their driver names throughout the night here tonight. A great addition to the broadcast. But like Josh had mentioned, a wide variety of schools and skill levels here tonight. So we're going to see drivers like Kevin Vu and John D. Price just absolutely lay down these absurd lap times. A 3:49 is absolutely insane in the GTE cars. Guys just being absolute aliens out there on the track. But that's what's so cool about this league is not only do we have these top tier drivers, but we have a wide variety as well. And there's really a prize for everybody with a bunch of money being on the line here tonight. And included in that is that hard charger award. And that can be one of those drivers that starts toward the back of the pack, but you keep the car very clean throughout the race. Josh talked about those aerodynamic features of Le Mans. You see those two long straightaways on the back portion of the course, and so key to keep that car in good aerodynamic shape as we continue throughout the night.
No, it absolutely is. It's key to keep that in shape. Any little bit of damage is going to affect that top speed, and that's going to add up. We're going to see a lot of disparity in lap times and a pretty good spread because it's such a long track. And to be 1 or 2% faster or slower is going to be, is going to show that that's across a lot longer track. And so we're going to see that. We're going to see cars that are slower on straights and faster in the corners. And opposite of that, to be slower in the corners, we're going to see guys who have cars that come and go during that race. Um, and I think we're going to see a lot of stuff. Pit stops will be a strategy. And when do you come? Do you try and stay in traffic? Do you find a drafting buddy and come together? We've seen that cars across a whole lap here, cars can be up to a second faster in drafts. Just two cars following each other around because of the layout of this racetrack. So that will be an added part of strategy. Who can make friends and who can be there at the end.
Absolutely. So about 3 minutes here left in qualifying before we kick things off. You see the top 10 qualifying times on your screen. Currently, we have two more drivers set who have yet to lay down a lap just yet. And a couple others loading on in as we speak. So a couple more drivers that you'll see before the race is over. And Kevin Vu making an appearance after that week 1 victory. So expect to see him try to make his way toward the front of the pack.
Absolutely. Kevin Vu jumped out to an early points lead for the driver's standings of the CIL series. And then Jared Kaler took that over with his win 2 weeks ago at Monza in our last round. Now we're here at round 3. And we're going to see how these guys shake out. We've already seen qualifying and practice, and Kevin Vu, we mentioned in that UC Riverside machine, fast. And so we're going to see, I think, a pretty enjoyable race. And I think we're going to see these guys go head to head on one of the best tracks here.
Absolutely. And this league could not go on without the help provided by NextBookIt. And we're going to hear from them very quickly before we get set to rock and roll here from Le Mans. We'll be right back up here in the booth. We'll talk to you guys shortly.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it, but there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With NextBookIt, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use, and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just NextBookIt.
So as you saw right there, NextBookIt is the next big thing for college students, especially in a time like now with the coronavirus. It is a marketplace where you can buy and sell textbooks to and from other students from all across the country. And as an incentive to sell your books for limited time, NextBookIt is offering an extra $10 on top of what you make on your first book sale using their service. And who doesn't like that free money? $10, that gets you almost another track, almost another car here at iRacing. So definitely check that out. And in addition to that, use the code SAVECASH20, that's SAVE cash 20 for free shipping and no fees. What are you waiting for? NextBookIt this fall.
Absolutely. NextBookIt has done an awesome job here being a partner. We had Derek McCurry, founder, in the booth last time, 2 weeks ago at Monza. A race fan himself, and great story. NextBookIt, absolutely better service. Certainly check them out. Jarrett gave you the codes for all your books and needs there for school.
And talk to us a little bit about, they're providing a little bit of the prize pool. Talk to us about that here tonight.
Yeah, and they've so they've done two awesome things, and they've provided a pool to knock down some of that cost barrier for our top 10 finishers, as well as our hard charger award. Most spots gained in a race, so even if you're starting maybe not on the pole position, you've got something to work for, and that spread goes pretty far down the list. And if you have been around the pricing model of iRacing, you know it's not an inexpensive service, and the purchases of tracks and cars here help knock that down. They've also done a scholarship fund, and they've been able to support that and provide that, and that's enabled us to put a few more cars on track each week. That's been really well received and pretty generous of NextBookIt to be out here.
Absolutely. Could not thank them more. And with that, let's get you to this starting grid sponsored by NextBookIt for this round of 3 here at Le Mans. On the pole tonight is going to be John D. Price. And you see that college name right underneath each of these drivers' names. Super cool. And we'll keep you up to date with that throughout the night. But John D. Price from the University of Texas at Arlington will be your pole sitter here tonight. On his outside is going to be the 42 of Corey Hyatt, our one of 2 Fords in the field. He's from the Colorado School of Mines. Jared Kaler will roll off row 2. He's from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte in the 58 machine. And from Columbia Southern University is Aaron Folkerts in the 732. Cohen Evans will roll off in the number 17 machine. He starts 5th here tonight. Kevin Vu in the 54 will start 6th. Henry Morse in the 44 will start 7th. And Alexandre Pacini in the number 22 rolling off 8th. Will Krehor will roll off 9th. And Andrew Covell in the 35 machine starts 10th. Roger Gregory from the University of North Carolina starts 11th. And our VCU team rolls off 12th with Trey Coleman. Continuing on down your grid here. And actually, that is going to do it of your top 12. So we're going to get set to rock and roll from here at Le Mans.
Yeah, and ready we are. That's a familiar front row, the Ford GT. Looking like the lone GT here amongst a field of Corvettes, one Ferrari. I take it back. There's another Ford there. You see John Price talking to the guys on the radio, and they're getting ready to go. That Texas at Arlington car, and that's a Porsche that we have seen up front all year long. And Jarrett, I expect nothing different this evening.
Absolutely, and really going to be interesting to see if anyone can challenge him or if we see the drivers just kind of start to run away with it here at the start. It'll be interesting to see how this race unfolds.
Yeah, it is, and I think we're going to see what happens. We come through the Porsche curves now, or have just exited the Porsche curves, actually, and then we are going through the Corvette curves right now. You can see the Corvette driving back and forth. That's Jared Kaler in the UNC Charlotte machine. They're going to come to the line. Pretty good mix of manufacturers. We talked about there's been a couple switches on a couple drivers. We talked about the cars and the different strengths and weaknesses of each car will play into the track each week, and they are allowed to jump back and forth. So you will see that pace car hop off soon enough, and we are getting ready to go green.
So you're going to watch John D. Price here in that UT Arlington machine. Lights out, green flag in the air, and we're underway from here at Le Mans. John D. Price going to lead the field down to that that first turn, and we are underway here at Le Mans.
That's right. Price with a great start down into turn one, the Dunlop bend, and into the Dunlop chicane. Second is Hyatt. Third is that green Corvette, the Charlotte machine. Behind him, looks like we have Aaron Falkerts and the Hoosier going at it. That is the C8R of the Indiana right there. Getting a little bit spread out as we head in, and soon enough, we'll be on the Mulsanne, and we'll see who is the best draft.
Absolutely, and you heard it here earlier. What car, what manufacturer is going to be that top-tier manufacturer here tonight? I'll have to wait and see as this race unfolds.
Absolutely. You see the French Air Force going across with the jet trails there. John Price already in his own zip code, and followed again by Kaler Hyatt. We see Aaron Falkerts behind that Cohen Evans car. Looks like Falkerts now pulling out to make a move, and he falls back in line.
Down toward these first couple of chicanes. Very tough to navigate if you're going 2x2 especially. Looks like everyone going to be A-okay for the time being as they head down toward that second long straightaway.
Everyone survives, but it's not over yet. You have to remember these drivers just got done setting their fastest laps with very little fuel in the car and warm tires, and they've just filled it full of 19 gallons of race fuel, and they're going into to cold tires. They're all together, and when there's a car in front of you, that's less downforce on your car, and your braking distances increase. So these guys certainly trying to navigate themselves as well as each other and cars around them. Looks like Corey Hyatt pushing his computer as much as he is pushing that Ford GT. We've watched his internet connection come and go there.
Absolutely, you're watching him go a little in and out right there. And Aaron Folkert's the driver right behind him. Got to be a little bit concerned right there if you're the 732 machine. Just got to be patient. And on his back ends, Cohen Evans in that Indiana paint scheme. Really good-looking paint scheme. We talk about those day in and day out, just how good they look. And a lot of these drivers putting a lot of effort into those, really buying in to this collegiate iRacing league.
Absolutely, and a little bit of a gaggle coming into Mulsanne off the straight there. I saw some 2x2 action. I did see a cone go flying, but it looks like everybody's car made it through intact. And it looks like Alexandra Piccini from Santa Maria Federal University leads that pack as they make the run down into Indianapolis. You see here.
And Jared Kaler closing in here on John D. Price, your race leader, and the top four really all stacking on up here. Right behind him, Alexandre Piccini is making his way up through the field. He's gained one position since the start, the only Ferrari here in the field. And he's got Corey Hyatt, who slipped 5 spots all the way back to 6th here early.
Absolutely. We talked about Pacini and that Ferrari, and a couple of these drivers changing rides to match the track, and constant in that Ferrari is Pacini. And it shows he's been consistent in our run order, and he is in top 10 in points. And it's a blast to see him run here and push these guys.
Absolutely. Right behind him, you're looking at Kevin Vu right now. He's closing in on Corey Hyatt as they head through the Porsche curves, now toward the Corvette curves as they head down toward those final two chicanes here on lap number 1. And what a lengthy one it is. Around 4 minutes every single lap here. And that's kind of taxing on the drivers, especially mentally. You're going through so many curves, and you see it right behind Kevin Vu. Henry Morse with a little bit of trouble right there, banging all over the curbs, and right behind him, Will Krehor trying to capitalize on that.
That is correct. Will Krehor and all of VCU looking to make a move here up through Dunlop. Not sure what he can do. We'll watch. Looks like he's going to cut in a little bit. I think he is side by side, but Henry Morse had a lot of movement there. In fact, runs wide again. And opportunities abound here for that 14 machine. We'll see if he can make the race into Mulsanne. Not sure. Looks like they close off the corner to the inside. Some hard defending. It looks like Henry Morse will win the race onto the long front stretch, but that was close.
So drivers now going to head down that back portion, those long straightaways. As we flash you back to your leaders, Jared Kaler trying to reel on in John D. Price. Not able to do it just yet, and Price having a great start here at the University of Texas at Arlington machine. And right behind him, Folkerts and Evans still going nose to tail as they continue through the chicanes here.
They do, and that has swapped since I've last seen it. The Indiana car has given way to Folkerts there in the California car. And I will note that while Price has built up a great lead, that Corvette of Jared Kaler is coming slowly but surely. He seems to be about even between the car behind and ahead. We'll see if he can have some smooth laps, maybe take some opportunities that come his way. Still early in the race, but that might be where his competition comes from. John Price will see a lot of Jared Kaler in the mirror for the rest of this race.
And you see just how important having a drafting partner is in those portions. And Josh talked about a pit stop a little bit earlier. Each of these drivers with a 75% fuel capacity here in the Collegiate iRacing League. So a 1 hour race at 75% fuel leaves you with about one pit stop. It's going to come somewhere just after halfway for a lot of these drivers. And halfway this race is going to be somewhere around 7 to 8 laps. These long, lengthy laps, those 4-minute laps, really wears on the car a little bit. And keeping it clean and getting that pit stop in and out. So we'll see a bunch of drivers take fuel. And it'll be interesting to see if we see drivers take tires as well as Kevin Vu continues to close in on Pacini.
Kevin Vu is, and he's going in here. He's going to move on that Ferrari. I do believe there's a little bit of power advantage, horsepower, to the Corvette. And so he may try and make a move here through Porsche as he goes through the gravel a little bit, or he may make an attempt under braking. This will be fun to watch as we go out of Arnage and into the Porsche curves.
Looks like a little bit of trouble toward the back of the pack here. That looked like Robert Gregory in the other Ford here. Both Fords struggling a little bit early. Corey Hyatt falling back to 7th. Roger Gregory is 10th, started 12th. So he's made his way up the field a little bit. But that Ford, I think we expected to see it be a little bit stronger here at Le Mans.
Yeah, and I think we see Gregory there trying to take a scenic route. Hard contact into both walls there for Gregory. I think that will be taking him to the pits. These drivers do have one fast repair. It looks like he has some steering damage. We know that if you hit that wall and the steering wheel is at an angle, and it looks like Gregory has just taken that car behind the wall. But we do know that if you and there's your move from that would be Kevin Vu on Alexander Pacini, and Pacini will concede the spot and now defend from Corey Hyatt behind him.
The drivers continue to lay down excellent lap times. You see those across the right side of your scoring tower on the left side of your screen. Also on the screen, you see where it says 1x and 2x. Each of those is an incident penalty assessed by iRacing. The common 1x that you'll see is an off track. A driver goes too wide on a certain turn. A 2x will be some kind of harder contact, and the 4x is the hardest kind of contact. Each of those add on up. As you see Pacini go a little bit off track, he's now at 2x right there. Each of those will add up. If they get to 17, they are assessed a drive-through penalty, which is very big here at Le Mans. So pay attention to that as this race unfolds.
No, that is correct, and we saw Pacini using every bit of the track and a little bit more. These guys know that if they end up getting a penalty before their pit stop, that time, that stop and go and drive through is added simply to their existing pit stop. They can do that, but if they have that after, they have to make a separate run down pit road. That will be another 20 to 30 seconds that they give up either to the leader or to their competitors behind them. So got to mind those, and it is so easy at this track with so many fast portions, very similar to Spa in that respect, where there's a lot of fast sweeping corners and transitions, and very easy to get an off track.
Absolutely. So definitely pay attention to that. We saw that early in week 1 as we saw drivers battling for 7th. One of the drivers hit that number 17 mark, and then the race was pretty much over for the battle for 10th there. Week 1 having about 24 drivers, if memory serves me correct. So those top 10 drivers getting money, and everyone else kind of hung out to dry. And that's what's so cool about this, is some races you might have a lower turnout. Some races are filled with drivers itching to get after it.
No, that is correct, and we continue to see a great battle here between Indiana and UC Riverside. I'm sorry, that is Aaron Folkerts in his Corvette machine. And these guys have been going at it for quite some time.
So another thing to think about here as these drivers go side by side is you're going to save fuel in that draft. If you get nose to tail, you'll be able to not only save a little fuel, but go a little bit faster as Cohen Evans makes the move. Late break into that corner. He's able to slip around Folkerts in the 732, and Cohen Evans has gained 8 positions since the start of this race. It looks like Folkerts going to go wide there. A little bit of a problem under braking there, and he's now going to be at the clutches of Fu.
That is correct, and I misspoke. The Folkerts machine is the Columbia Southern University machine, under attack now from UC Riverside. At a glance, those two cars looking similar, and it looks like that Ford GT going to try to sneak on through. Not sure if he can do it as we go into the Porsche curve. You can see Folkerts right there in the 732 machine, Columbia Southern University, right out to that blue wall and right back down to the apex of the Porsche curve, sideways in that Corvette, and Vu getting all that curb he can. These guys are going through here in the off-camber turn. This is the Corvette curves. And you can see they'll make a run down to the Ford chicanes. And we'll see if Kevin Vu decides he wants to make a move here. It looks like he will pull out. And look, what does he think? It's time to get back in line and find a better opportunity.
Kevin Vu in that UC Riverside machine looking very strong here early. He's going to try and hold off Hyatt. It looks like Folkert's going to pull off to the inside there and give the position to not only Vu, but Hyatt as well.
That may be, and I wonder if he did something we didn't see, and maybe he is serving a slowdown. That seems to be about the distance that a slowdown would set you back there. Certainly, if he wanted to give the position back, he could be in a little better spot to draft those guys. So I will touch on Corey Hyatt in the Colorado School of Mines machine. That's the Ford GT you see there. And internet issues aside, I think that we had, as we discussed them there, I think that he started up pretty high in the running order, and I wonder if he had a tough first few laps because he is now trying to run a recovery race and bring that car back. Has it cracked the top 5 already?
Absolutely, Corey Hyatt. 4 spots down. He started in 2nd here tonight. So we definitely know he has the pace. We mentioned these just blistering qualifying times at the start, and qualifying times obviously not going to be your race pace per se. They might be very close, but a lot of drivers will dump fuel, and when the race starts, you're obviously carrying a full load of fuel, so things to consider as we watch these lap times unfold. But Corey Hyatt in the Ford machine has proven to be able to handle that Ford. A lot of drivers sometimes struggle with the Ford in terms of the oversteer that you will get under braking. But Corey Hyatt has proven to be dominating with it. And Folkert's going to go to the inside here in that final chicane on that back straightaway.
They will go side by side in the final chicane. Folkerts runs a bit wide. It looks like Hyatt may have given him some room there. And he will now set down in line and draft. Might be useful to note that Ford is very good at drafting up to the back of its competitors. But then it doesn't return the favor as well. As you can see, the rear of that Ford, the air passes between those two taillights and right into the front of any car that might be behind it. So it is not as easy to draft the Ford GT here as other cars. And I'm sure he knows that, and he may be using that to his advantage here.
We saw that a lot last week at Monza, the Ford not really providing that draft that you might get from some of these other cars. And in the Collegiate iRacing League, none of the drivers are bound to a certain manufacturer. So we've seen a couple drivers, like Josh mentioned, go from the BMW and flip to the Corvette or some other combination, if you will. But Corey Hyatt has stuck with the Ford all season long, so good to see the 42 making that Ford work for him. He's down 5 spots back to 6th, but definitely look for him in the second half of this race.
Absolutely, and the Ford does do a good job of conserving its equipment, conserving its tires, and I think that we can place Hyatt next to Pacini in staying consistent to their cars. They're very good at the tools they have. They know what the car will do. As we see Hyatt run a little bit wide there, now he has to gather it up before he gets here. And that wall on the outside does jump out pretty quickly. And we talked about, especially for Roger Gregory, if you touch that wall at all, and your steering wheel is not going straight, you can damage that tie rod and your steering, and you'll be going straight, and your steering will be turned to the left or to the right very slightly, and so that can be a little bit disconcerting for some of these drivers.
Absolutely. So you see Roger Gregory actually out of the race here. Yeah, at the bottom of your screen at 3:51 for John D. Price. That's going to be the fastest lap. That's why you see it in pink on your screen there. And any kind of green number is an improvement on their last lap time. And white is just a lap that they didn't quite meet last lap. So Corey Hyatt, a 3:54, but he's closing in. He's trying to work there on Aaron Folkerts. That is the second closest battle on the, or excuse me, it's the closest battle on the track. Kevin Vu and Cohen Evans, the other battle going on.
That is correct. 2 Corvettes trying to chase each other down. And they have been roughly pretty even. We see them go through, try not to run wide right there. That's the least best place to get a slowdown. As we see, looks like maybe the red Corvette of Cohen Evans may have had that slowdown. You see he's got to give it back right there, and look at how devastating that is. If you run wide, if your car is not on the curbing, the colored curbing on the outside as you come onto the Mulsanne straight, that's the result. And you can already see the position handed with a significant gap to Kevin Vu in that UC Riverside Corvette.
Kevin Vu, your race winner from Spa, and he just absolutely dominated that race really all night long. So seeing that he's gained 7 spots is no surprise here tonight. We'll see if he's able to catch up Jared Kaler and John D. Price up there at the front of the pack. You're looking in at Price now and Kaler right behind him. You see that 8-second gap from Vu to Kaler. Tack on 2 more, and Vu has 10 seconds to make up to get to the leader, John D. Price. And you can do that on pit stops. It's all a matter of entering this pit road in Le Mans, one of the more difficult pit roads to get onto.
Well, that is correct, and we'll perhaps we can go on board with a few drivers during the pit sequence, but what that will show us is just how slow and twisty that pit road is. It's designed to slow cars down without a large danger from the speed, the top speed they're coming through, the Porsche curves, the Corvette curves, and then down to that slow pit road speed. So we'll bring that to you when it's time. We are almost to the 20-minute point of this hour-long race, riding on board with Jared Kaler now, as he's taken about a tenth out of that lead since we last visited.
Trying to chase down John D. Price. It's under 2 seconds now. And at a track like this, consistency really key. And that's so hard to do. Turn in and turn out. So many corners on this track. And you see the gaps constantly changing. Corey Hyatt actually starting to close back in, and he's all over the back bumper of Henry Morse.
Well, we've talked about it, Hyatt in that Ford GT, and we see Henry Morse in front there, and they're coming up on the Porsche curves. You see a little bit of damage to the back end of that 44 machine. Don't remember what the story is there, but it looks like they're going to go side by side here through the curves, and it looks like Hyatt will have the inside. I think they've sorted it out, and they will continue on. Again, a little bit of damage there we saw from that Corvette.
So Hyatt going to sneak by Morse. Good little run right there for Hyatt, trying to make his way back up through the field a little bit. And let's run you through the field now as we approach that 20-minute mark, that 1/3-ish into the race. And your race leader, John D. Price, so far started off on the pole. And he's really stayed that way all night long. He's been the driver to beat. You see that gap still at around 2 seconds. We'll see if it can kind of close in as this race unfolds. But John D. Price from the University of Texas at Arlington having a good start here.
He is, and he's representing them well. You know, I like to watch Mr. Price. I think there's a couple things that he does well. He's consistent. And as you showed him there going up through the Dunlop curve and then through the Dunlop chicane, I noticed that he was very smooth, even as the car bounced around a little bit and as he was finding his groove. Didn't really waver. I saw a little bit of opposite lock as he went under the bridge. But we saw it at Spa and Monza. Consistent, smooth, even when battling with competitors. We've seen Theo Burns and Price have put on a couple good battles over this season, and it's always good to watch, and perhaps some lessons to be learned there for aspiring iRacers who might see.
Absolutely. So continuing on down your grid, Jared Kaler in second place. He's made his way up through the field, trying to chase down John D. Price. And Kaler, he's had a very strong showing here in the Collegiate iRacing League in this pilot season. University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And you see that paint scheme on the 58 right there. Great looking scheme of that UNC Charlotte machine. We talked to him last week. He was in the BMW last week and now out here in the Chevy Corvette, and that's partially, like Josh mentioned, due to iRacing buffing a little bit of the BMW.
Yeah, that's correct. iRacing will come out just like your real-life counterparts, the IMSA series or the Le Mans series. There will be a balance of performance, and so iRacing deemed that the BMW was a little bit too advantageous, and so they made some adjustments. So we see fewer BMWs, and we see some more Corvettes right now. And the Corvette is the newest GTE car from iRacing, so that's exciting. And we did talk about Jared Kaler for a minute, and not surprising to see him up there. Mechanical engineering student from his university, and karting driver as well. So when he's not racing at his computer, he does like to race on his local tracks there in Charlotte, there in North Carolina. And Jared, I think it has shown all season since we started.
Absolutely, and that's what's so cool about the iRacing is we have people who are doing this in real life racing, like you mentioned, the karting, maybe someone doing other kinds of or other disciplines of racing. But we also have guys who are just normal college students who just enjoy the sport. Enjoy the sport of motorsport, you know, guys who just want to get into the iRacing scene. So it's so cool that you have a mixed crowd, and especially the almost camaraderie that we see on the Discord. Guys exchanging setup ideas and exchanging race notes. And it's just so very cool to see the community that this college iRacing league has brought to us.
No, it absolutely is, and the world of simulation allowing different groups of drivers from different time zones, areas, geographies to come together and all be on a track here in virtual France. It's super cool. Um, what a time to be alive!
Absolutely. And you might have saw at the top left corner of your screen right there, Jared Kaler now setting the fastest lap with a 351.6, I believe it was, faster than John D. Price, and trying to continue to close that gap as we go on here.
No, he is, and I've tried a bit of watching that gap, and due to the layout of this racetrack, Le Mans here, it's so long that that gap, even if two cars are pretty constant, can stay, over top of, can change a little bit. But it's been up to maybe about 2 seconds. It's been down to 1.6 as we see the VCU car of Trey Coleman coming through the Ford chicanes there, getting every bit of performance out of that car as he goes back down into turn one. And, we watched the battle up front, and the race will start to shift now. We've talked about these guys. They've definitely used at least half of their fuel in their car. Their tires have been hot for a while, starting to wear down just a little bit. Don't expect to see a ton of degradation at these temperatures, this track temperature in this race, but it will be a little bit of a factor. But these guys will start to see who has set up their car before, to plan for that light fuel load and who started strong. Obviously, we talked about Price jumping out to an early head start. And then as that fuel burns off, does his advantage grow or does it get a little bit smaller? That is the game that we're going to look here to see. That gap was down to 1.6. Now it looks like it's about 1.9, almost back to Taylor.
So a couple things to note as we approach the halfway point in the race. If this is your first time at the CIL broadcast, welcome, number one. And number two, a couple things to note. They do get one fast repair. So you saw a couple of drivers get some kind of damage to their vehicle. They're able to come down pit road and really at the push of a button repair that car to what it would have been at the start of the race, which really keeps everyone in it in terms of continuing through the race. Roger Gregory, with an incident like that so early, it might be tough to come back from. But that's just one of the things that the CIL does to continue to push these drivers to continue to race and really make it all about the driver here. And another thing that the Collegiate iRacing League did, we provided paint schemes for some of these drivers. And one of those you're seeing out front here tonight, that University of Texas at Arlington machine of John D. Price, provided here by the CIL staff. And that's just something fun that we did. Like we said, we want to make it all about the drivers, giving them an excellent experience. And about halfway through this season, it's seeming like we're doing just that.
That is correct. We've got a lot of feedback and had a lot of interest from drivers and enjoy the feedback that they're getting. I think the drivers are enjoying the racing here and the layout. And I think, Jared, you and I are enjoying being able to see these guys talk about lap. We talked about qualifying. We saw 351s, 349.8 lap times that I thought were LMP2 times. But I stand corrected. And these guys are a blast to watch. And now I understand why all race car drivers become commentators when they retire. It is so much more relaxing and impressive to watch it up here from the booth as we hang out and we watch Kaler in hot pursuit. But still, as much as he tries, the gap remains that 1.6, 1.7. And John Price making no mistakes on his way to the halfway point in the NextBookIt round 3 here at Le Mans.
And you might have saw it at the top left corner of your screen, Jared Kaler with a 351 flat that last lap for the fastest lap here tonight. No extra points for the fastest lap, but Jared Kaler definitely going to need those if he is to catch John D. Price, your leader here tonight.
That is correct, and a couple of those fast laps will have to go together. It's so easy to have 5 or 10 great laps and make up a few precious cents on the guy in front, especially if he's the leader. And then whoops, one bobble, one corner you have, and then I just gave the 3/10 back, and it's not hard to make a mistake like that and do that. And I would say kudos to both John Price and Jared Kaler as they run those top spots pretty much mistake free, as far as I can tell.
Absolutely. And you see the rest of your running order. Still 11 drivers here out on track. And that's what you'd love to see, is everyone continuing to give a great effort. And let's check in on some drivers further back in the field. Alexandre Pacini in the number 22. He had a couple incidents that we heard about over the radio. And the 22 car just trying to limp it on along here. He's come down pit lane, so he might be able to stretch it a little bit further than these other drivers and maybe gain a little bit of time by staying out there on the track. Andrew Covell also further along on the track here. In that number 35, another one of the paint schemes provided by the Collegiate iRacing League. That San Jose State University car. And Covell actually had a very strong race last week. You wouldn't guess it by how he's running so far. But he's definitely been a driver who you might see move up toward the front, depending on the track. A lot of these drivers might have that quote-unquote favorite track. And we may or may not go there in this 6-race pilot season. But Le Mans, one of those tracks that's just really the history tells itself. And a lot of these drivers enjoying it here tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. Andrew Covell with a solid 9th place effort at Monza 2 weeks ago. We're on board now with Will Crahor making his CIL debut here at Le Mans and making a nice job of it, keeping it to 2 incident points. Generally, by this point in an ILMS race, I have about 6. So I'd say he's well ahead of the curve. You can see he's using every bit of the track here as he makes that slight right and then hard left into Indianapolis. And then it's back up through the gears under the Audi tunnel. And then he'll hit his braking point and make that that hard right off camber into Arnage right there. Miss those black tires. And away we go into the Porsche curves. You can see the banner there.
And the Porsche curves, these high-speed curves, as John D. Price with a 350.5. As they continue to burn off fuel, these drivers continue to lay down these absurd lap times there in the top 2.
I agree. I think we're approaching qualifying times.
Absolutely. So the fuel being burned off for these guys, and they're really making the cars work. And Josh mentioned it just a moment ago. Drivers being able to set up their cars in certain ways that continues to make it work as these tires wear, and that's a true testament to the drivers' time that they spend putting into here and understanding how the car works, how it's going to drive. It is not a fixed setup series here in the CIL, and what that means is there are some series or some leagues in iRacing that give everyone one default setup for the car. It is not that way here in the CIL. They can do whatever adjustments they want, and you're probably seeing it there up in the top 2.
Well, I think so. And I know that some of these drivers, I know that Kevin Vu does some endurance racing with the different few iRacing teams. I know that John Price has mentioned his supporters and his teammates a couple times as we interview him on the podium. So certainly these guys, sharing setups, knowledge, using team resources, and making the most of their opportunities here. And we can see that with the spectacular lap times that we're seeing in the racing that we're seeing. Let's not forget that every time these guys get close, all the cars tend to make it to the end. We don't have a lot of cars in the barriers, and I think that's a solid testament to the CIL drivers here as they come week in and week out and do an awesome job.
Absolutely, and that's always a concern of some of these drivers is, am I going to get raced clean? And a lot of the drivers were actually pretty concerned because no one really knew what to expect in that first race we did at Spa, that hard right-hander to kick off the Collegiate iRacing League, and we made it through turn 1 easily, and we've made it all the way to race 3 without any real big issues. We had Monza last week, and Monza turn 1 is a meme in itself, and we really survived it.
No, absolutely, and it's always fun to watch these guys. Those hard parts are my favorite parts to watch these guys go through side by side, nose to tail, and display their skills. You can see displaying their skills. They continue to trade paint and to trade spaces. That's Aaron Folkerts and Cohen Evans. And that is the Columbia Southern University car and the Indiana car going nose to tail as they have been back and forth, perhaps inadvertent drafting buddies for the better part of the 34 minutes that we've clocked here.
So I'd imagine we see pit stops here relatively quickly. And you see right here the draft between the Corvettes as Evans will fall off to about 0.8 of a second back. And you see it right there, that interval closing and closing as they head down this straightaway, as that Corvette just wants to suck up in that clean air to Folkerts in front as they head into the Porsche curves. Very high-speed corners. And we're seeing the drivers be able to take it pretty easily. That blue wall that you just see leaving your screen does come out and get you. We've seen a couple drivers. We saw Roger Gregory get into that wall earlier in the race, and everyone else pretty much avoiding it.
No, that is correct. The Porsche curves, and especially that double apex there on that wall, is an opportunity for error. And I think that these guys have been really smooth through here. We just talked about the talent that we have in the field here. And coming around to this end of the Ford chicanes, we see these guys racing each other hard, and it looks like pretty close. I see Aaron Folkerts trying to break the draft there. Looks like we have some pit lane. Kevin Vu, Henry Morse on pit lane. Henry Morse grabbing that fast repair. We know he had some damage from some contact with Alexander Pacini earlier. We stay with this battle now, but it looks like those guys are in pit lane and getting service. Looks like fuel only for those two.
So no surprise to see these guys on pit lane 35 minutes into the 1 hour long race. Expect we see a lot of other drivers on pit lane as well. Krihor also coming down pit lane as well. Vu going to be the first one off. He'll still hold on to that 6th spot. And looking back toward your leader, we got a little bit of a battle going on here.
And that interval has shrunk down. We are under a second now and well within draft, about a second and a half. That draft goes from minimal to a little bit more effective. And these guys are here now. We do know that the Corvette has a horsepower advantage over the Porsche. We do commend John Price for making that Porsche work. But we'll see what they do now. As you can see, Price trying to step out, break the draft. Now he'll step in line as he comes into braking for the final chicane on the Mulsanne. And down they go to the straight. In fact, he runs a little bit wide there. And I wonder, Jarrett, if his tires are just starting to let go of that first bit of grip.
Absolutely, and it'll be very curious if we see anyone take tires and maybe try to make that advantage on the pit stops. Oftentimes in these hour-long races, you'll see everyone just splash and go. Let the tires cool off a little bit, as once they get a little bit of heat out of them, they'll be a little more grippy for those first couple laps, maybe even a little bit slick. As you take a look at your weather right now, 26 degrees Celsius outside, a little bit of wind, and 48 degrees Celsius on the track, and that is a pretty hot track here at Le Mans.
That it is, and these two guys continue that gap now, 0.4. And I dare say that Jared Kaler is there. He is looking for an opportunity to get around Price, and it doesn't have to be right now. We know that we're coming up on pits. We know that these two cars are going to use different amounts of fuel, and so we'll see if he can take a little bit less fuel. We know that the fuel advantage and the pit stop advantage generally does go to the Porsches. They are a little bit more efficient in that they are also not making the big power that the Ferraris and the Corvettes are making. So we will see, and if we can, we'll get on board and show you that pit entry we discussed. A big fast entry from about 160 miles an hour down to about 40 miles an hour. Heavy on the brakes there. We'll bring it to you coming up here.
Absolutely, and you take a look at the gap over the past couple of laps there at the bottom right corner of your screen there. And you see it just tick on away for John D. Price up in the lead, and it looks like here they come to pit lane. Let's ride along with Mr. Price as he tries to get in there.
Absolutely, over the left and to the right curb, staying between the lines, stop at the yellow cones. That's where the pit lane speed limit begins, and gives Kaler an opportunity to come in just 20 meters behind. These two guys are now both on their pit limiter, riding the speed limit. We're going to see Cohen Evans, Aaron Folkert, who comes around. Looks like a detour there. Couldn't get it slowed down for Cohen Evans. That may be a penalty. We will follow up. And everybody coming now, at least the top 5 are all in for service.
So Kevin Vu already completed service here tonight. He's going to try and make up as much ground as possible on this top 5 who are all on pit road as he's exiting the Corvette curves, heading toward those final 2 chicanes, and he might have a pretty good run here as John D. Price now on the pit exit. And he's at a great pit stop right there. Jared Kaler still stuck in the pits. Might have taken a little more fuel than the Porsche.
That is correct. We just said the Porsches tend to have the better pit stops and has the advantage now. And you can see that gap up around 5 seconds. That will stabilize, but certainly an advantage for John Price as they make the run to the end, getting inside of the final 20 minutes now. These guys are going to have to acknowledge and realize, what their car conditions are and where they think they want to make their moves and make their choices. Looks like Alexander Pacini now right on the back of Will Krehor as they battle for that top 10 position, that final top 10 position. And a Porsche there, I believe that is Andrew Covell entering the pits via the gravel as Pacini continues to work on the Corvette of Krehor.
Pacini in the 22. We've seen him have kind of an up and down couple of races. Has had very good pace at times. So Pacini, no surprise that he's battling for that top 10 spot. And he's going to go to the inside as the Corvette hard on the brakes late of Krehor. He's going to try and get it back running. Might have a little bit of a slowdown there. And you see the incident points on the left side of your screen adding up for a couple of those drivers. Should be safe from that 17 mark. But Krehor now under attack from Cohen Evans back there in the 17.
That is correct. That was certainly a slowdown there. You saw that cut from Krehor and the VCU machine. Now, as we come back onto the Mulsanne straight, in fact, struggling to get back onto the Mulsanne straight, Cohen Evans right behind that VCU machine, those 2 Corvettes, going to hustle it out. And the Ferrari there would love nothing more, Alexander Pacini, to see those guys battle and give him some breathing room as he tries to hunt down Henry Morse in that 6th place position, but a ways to go for that.
You see that wide angle taken by Pacini, trying to get as much of the curb as he can to get that car rotated. Good run off by all these drivers, and they all stay pretty much put. And we'll see, you see the gap closing to 0.2 of a second. Will Evans push the envelope here? Will he wait? Try and stay in that draft for a little bit longer. Maybe catch up Pacini with the help of Krehor as they head toward that second chicane on Mulsanne.
Well, that is correct. And I think he's decided maybe not right now. Do keep in mind that these guys have an advantage together. They are 3 cars nose to tail on the track, and that's going to create an aerodynamic advantage for them should they try to catch the racers in front. That would be Henry Morse and Aaron Folkert, both in Corvettes. However, both of these guys see a car in front, and that means time to race as we go side by side. Looks like 2 Corvettes, Cohen Evans to the inside. The 14 car puts up a tough fight, gives room, and it looks like we have a new running order. They're not completely side by side going down this long stretch here.
So Josh just talked about that aerodynamic advantage that they had, and now it's all but gone as they go side by side. You see Pacini starting to pull away a little bit. That gap opening up, and they come so close to touching right there, fenders. And they're able to survive as they're going to go side by side here in that high-speed corner. Get the car throttled down. It looks like Evan's going to hold on to that 8th spot.
No, that is correct. And there is a little bit of separation now. Hopefully they can kind of make like Cohen Evans going a little bit wide, and we'll give that position right back. We did say that these guys had an advantage. They could try and train up and catch the next cars, but I think they've chosen not to do that. They are putting on a show here, and Pacini, I think, has come out the winner.
You see that gap to Pacini now up to about 9/10 of a second over Krehor in that VCU Chevrolet Corvette. He's trying to fend off Cohen Evans in that Indiana machine. Let's check back in on your leader, John D. Price. He's having one heck of a race now, 5.5 seconds up on Kaler, who's back there in second. You might see him enter your screen. There he is, that little blip way at the end of this straightaway here.
Is correct. Certainly a gap there. We talked about now that Kaler is out of drafting range. These cars have some fuel, some weight in the tank. We've seen the advantage that the Porsche has at Price on the start of a run, and we see Cohen Evans looking for another way around. And that VCU machine, Creor, defending quite heavily. That's a battle. We also have a battle in the top 5 for Corey Hyatt, Aaron Falkerts, trying to sort out who will take that 4th position. And finally, the battle for the top 10. That 10th position, Trey Coleman. We talked about VCU there. You see the yellow Corvette. VCU trying to hold off Andrew Covell in the 11th position.
We'll stay locked in here as they head down the Mulsanne straight. It's Pacini in the white car, Krehor in the yellow machine, and Evans in that red machine. You're going to see them go 2 by 2 here. They're going to try and go the long way around Pacini. He gets stuck out of that draft, and you see quite how powerful it is. But going into the corner, he's not going to give it up as Pacini. He's going to try and go door-to-door with Evans.
That is correct. I feel like I'm at a super speedway, and 2 Corvettes going around the single Ferrari. And no matter the manufacturer, when you put 2 cars on a drafting straight like that, they will have the advantage. Both cars pass easily. Pacini giving room, and now Pacini sits in the advantageous spot to choose who to follow and when to pull out and pass, and what move to make here. As we come into the final chicane, he'll duck wide quite low and will actually go. Hopefully he didn't get an incident point there. And he will take over that 8th position from Cohen Evans. 7, 8, 9 now these cars run.
Saw Evans kind of bail out of that one. Self-preservation almost, as he saw Pacini go low over that curb. Gave quite a bit of space right there, did the 17. He's going to try and take it right back here in that hard, fast right-hander into that very slow, almost hairpin-like corner. You see lockup for the 22. He's in trouble. But he's going to be able to keep it off the wall. A little touch of the wall right there for Pacini.
That is correct. Touch of wall, the new scent from that Ferrari, Alexander Pacini, as he went through, and that was a strategy from Cohen Evans. We know Le Mans is all about drafting, and perhaps he gave him that position. As we are going to walk it back through here, just gave room, gave a little bit too much room. And once you get in the gravel with these cars with no anti-lock brakes, there is not much you can do there. As you can see, Pacini gets a little wide, gives plenty of room. It just touches that gravel, and that was all it took. You can see lockup right there. The 2 Corvettes make a right turn. The Ferrari, not so much.
So getting you back here live. Pacini trying to get back in the race. He's dropped back to 9th. 4 incident points, so he's looking good in that department. And up a little further, Folkerts and Hyatt, they're still battling. You've seen that gap on the left side of your screen be in that yellow and orange color within that half-second mark. Really a bunch of the second half of this race. And those two working together. And Josh mentioned the Ford not really going to provide that draft out there in front as would a Corvette or even the Porsche. So going to be tough for Folkerts to make his way around the Ford of Hyatt, who started off very rough, dropped further back in the pack, and he's made his way kind of back on up through the field.
Well, you said it. We talked about Hyatt had a great starting position. It had a tough few opening laps. I think maybe a sense of self-preservation. We saw a couple close calls there, and maybe not in a great spot at the wrong time, but has come back through, is now fourth, is now defending from that Corvette of Aaron Folkerts, and continuing for the third week in a row to put on a good performance for the Colorado School of Mines. Corey Hyatt, as we see Aaron Folkerts take the scenic route through there, didn't quite make the corner, and now must go through the tires, and we'll have a slowdown here. He can get up to speed. He won't have to give that back, but that may conclude the battle, at least for the moment, as Aaron Folkerts goes through the tires. Just missed the corner there. Just got on brakes. You see that car in front. Sometimes you get a little ambitious, and all it takes is a little bit of lockup there. We did see a little bit of smoke from the Corvette, and you're going straight.
Flashing back to this battle going on between Krehor and Evans. Evans up there in the red car. Krehor back in the yellow. As they go down Mulsanne Straight, and you see good look at it there. Just how long that straightaway is, and how much time it gives you to think about things. And we just saw a car lock up on entry into the chicane, and sometimes you forget about it. You get in a little bit of a groove, and you're not able to get it throttled down as quick as you might be when you're focused. And 49 minutes into this race, focus might slip a little bit, and it's so hard, especially when battling a car like that, to continue to do that. But those leaders, John D. Price, Jared Kaler, Kevin Vu, all doing a fantastic job of that here tonight.
Well, that is correct, and you just saw a fantastic angle of these cars coming down the Mulsanne Straight as these two Corvettes go into the corner. And we saw that Pacini was just hopping in that frame, and he was leading this group at one point, which all the drivers have to do is team up and weigh their risk and reward. And sometimes it is hard to do that, and the story is present there. As you can see, Pacini now shown 18 seconds back behind this ongoing battle. The Corvettes, though, continuing to make the most of their time, not giving any space. A little bit of lockup there from the 14 machine. We go down into Arnage.
So as we head under the 10-minute mark here, these two battling for 7th and 8th. Cohen Evans sitting in 7th. Krehor in 8th. Trying to make his way back up into that top 7. And the top 3 all starting to settle on down. John D. Price, 8 seconds out. Jared Kaler, and 7-second gap of his own on Kevin Vu. And Josh, are we surprised that we didn't see Kevin Vu maybe challenge for the lead a little bit more this week?
I think so. I think it started in qualifying, and I would say that if you remember, Kevin Vu had a tough second qualifying lap, so he put in that safe lap, but he didn't get to really send it in that second lap. So if you recall, we can show the starting places, but he went up to maybe, I want to say, 5th or 6th place he started, maybe even 4th, but I remember by the time he was in 3rd place, I think John Price had about a 5-second gap on the field, and we know how that ended. And so, yes, I am surprised, but I think that is the breaks of the game, right? If Kevin Vu has that second lap that he wants, and he sits next to Price at a 3:49.9, does he challenge for the lead for most of the race? And that's the part we may never know. So we get to see these guys go through, and these are the storylines of the race, and it's a risk and reward that we mentioned, and some of it is up to chance. So certainly making your own luck, having those qualifying laps, putting yourself in the right position, as we see the 42 machine there, the School of Mines, and then Aaron Folkert's trying to catch up. And since that snafu, I think Falkerts has settled out to about 3 seconds behind that Ford GT you see right there.
The Colorado School of Mines, one of the cooler schools that we hear. Obviously, you think of these quote unquote larger colleges. Maybe you think of them as those high end Division I colleges, and we get a good look at a lot of different schools here. And like Josh mentioned, not even just from America, and that's so cool about the iRacing service and what it provides is this wide range of individuals coming together every other Tuesday night here.
Yeah, that is, and you can see trying to stay within those bounds, within those curbs. I'm seeing Aaron Falkirch leading the charge at 4x. He and Alexander Puccini tied for the most incident points. I will include Cohen Evans in that from Indiana, trying to keep it on track. Though I will say, cleaner than I expected as we go hang out with Trey Coleman, our VCU representative, hanging on to that 10th possession, which he wrestled away at one point from Andrew Cavell in that Porsche you see behind. And now Trey Coleman heading out in a league of his own.
And Trey Coleman, one of the drivers from VCU that's stuck with the Beamer this week. Everyone else choosing to opt into the Chevrolet Corvette from VCU. And we mentioned the paint schemes, just good looking VCU paint scheme. Drew Bowen, the Western Michigan driver, unable to make it tonight. He ended up going home to make sure he could vote and was unable to get back. But still up there for my favorite paint scheme, but the VCU scheme's definitely quickly growing on me.
Well, that is true. We've seen that UNLV and the VCU cars always look solid together as we see the Porsche through the Dunlop chicane looking very good in transition. That's the UT Arlington, Texas at Arlington machine, piloted by John Price, who's opened up an 8-second lead over Jared Kaler. It was 5 seconds when he exited the pits, and it's only grown. And barring an external factor or a mistake, I think that Price can start to breathe just a little bit as we are looking at 55 minutes down of this 60-minute race. And we are going to have to decide when iRacing will provide us with that white flag.
Absolutely. And John D. Price has had a fantastic race. Going to be interesting to hear from him if Le Mans is really his track. And we think about that pit stop. Him and Jared Kaler were nose to tail going into pit lane. They were separated by 19 meters at one point. Now he's opened it back to an 8-second gap after that pit stop. And that just shows you how important the pit stop is in a race like this 1 hour race with that 75% fuel load in the cars.
Well, that is correct. And we heard last time that I believe it was Theo Burns from Wisconsin that he, overcalculated his fuel and just couldn't come back. He was racing with John Price, and I believe that was at Spa where he just overestimated his fuel and took an extra second or two in the pits, and that's all it takes. Obviously, a second sitting still is a couple of seconds on track. So always something to think about. A lot of these guys will use external apps or scripts or math to calculate how much fuel they need, how much fuel they're currently using, and if they need to save any. And I will close it out by saying, Jared, of all the manufacturers that I would have chosen to win Le Mans, given what I know about the balance of performance, I don't think I'd have chosen the Porsche. But I stand corrected. John Price has found a way to make that car work, and not just make it work. He is hammering the rest of his competitors.
Absolutely. And you even look at the time delta right here, 1/10 of a second faster in sectors 1, 3, and 4. Sector 2, the Mulsanne straight, really, is the closest one. And he's just hammering out these corners at a very high pace. And the Porsche sometimes can be a little snappy, a little bit of oversteer. And John D. Price has set the car up great. He's able to just fly through these corners, especially these high-speed corners. You think of the Porsche curves, aptly named. And the Porsche really doing the most here tonight.
Well, that is correct. It is the lightest car, and so it's really going to enjoy these curbs. I don't know what his aerodynamic, his front splitter, his rear wing, but he's making it work on the long straightaway, and he's making it work here. And you see he hugs that curb right there, hugs this curb right here, a little bit off camber, stays on that curb so he doesn't get a penalty. Doing everything right as he closes out this race.
So into those final 2 chicanes, you're going to see how much speed he carries in that first one. Throttle it on down a little bit more over the curbs in those final corners and heading back toward that start-finish line to get the white flag here tonight. Going to run 16 laps at Le Mans for round 3, sponsored by NextBookIt. And barring any catastrophe, he's just got to lay a solid lap down, bring it on home here tonight.
Absolutely. He is in the best position possible. As you see Jared Kaler. Jared, I'm sure, will be pushing this lap. But even as long as this track is 7 seconds is going to be difficult to come by. He's going to need a little bit of help if he does that. As we see Kevin Vu, we talked about what could have been, but he qualified 6th place or so, or 4th place. And went through. As we see Aaron Folkerts picking up his 6th incident point of the race just recently. We ride on board with Corey Hyatt now going through as he comes on to Mulsanne. And all these guys, 0 incident points for the top 4. And Jared, I don't think that's a coincidence. These guys not making mistakes, being clean, being smart. I don't think it should surprise anyone that the leaders are the only ones without incident points. We talked about being mistake-free all race long.
Absolutely not. And what a testament that is to their driving ability, especially on a track like this at Le Mans, where you have just a bunch of corners that you can maybe push it a little bit wide on and carry a bunch of speed and maybe just happen into a 1X, those little off tracks that you see a bunch of these guys adding up. But Price, Kaler, Vu, and Hyatt all doing an excellent job of keeping that car on the track. And like you said, it's paying off for them. They're not having to worry about any external damage that you might get from a stray curb. You're not having to worry about drivers pushing you one way or another behind. They're doing a great job, and it's paying off for the top 5, for those top 4.
No, it absolutely is. And we see here Cohen Evans trying to hone in on Henry Morse. That gap closing, I do wonder if Henry had a little bit of a slowdown. He's going to try to give back in the chicane, but we'll see for these guys. We see John Price representing Texas at Arlington as he goes down into his best sectors. We saw he was up a 10th on these sectors, sector 3, 4, and 5. He was 600ths up on. So certainly big speed from John Price here in his Porsche.
You're going to see it right on the right side of your screen, all the way down to 2nd gear, brings it up to 3rd, and right back down all the way to 1st for that hard right-hander as they head toward the Porsche curves. I'll be curious to see what gearing he chooses through these that's just led him to a fantastic gap. And you see Kaler really pushing it. Started this lap about 7.5 seconds back. He's got it close to about 5.5, so making good progress there.
He is. I don't know if there will be enough time. I'm sure that Price knows he's got that gap. He knows he doesn't need to make a mistake, and he knows that he just has to bring it home. And he's built the cushion to do that. So, he's probably driving around 70%, just trying to keep between the white lines. Coming through the Porsche curves, he'll go through the Corvette curves, down through the Ford chicanes, past the Ferris wheel, and then he will be all set to grab that checkered flag.
Throttling it on down one final time through those final 2 chicanes. And John D. Price waving to his pit crew there on the pit wall. And he's going to bring the number 4 home in first. Jared Kaler, 5 seconds back. He will come away in 2nd. Kevin Vu going to sneak through these final couple chicanes. He will finish 3rd. And Corey Hyatt trying to chase on down to get that 4th place finish.
That is correct. And I do see a battle. Cohen Evans and Henry Morse. Again, they're not done. As we see Corey Hyatt cross the line, Aaron Falkert's behind. Now we bring you this battle between the 44 and the Machine of Indiana, the Corvette, through the Porsche curves. Where can they make a move? This is not known to be a passing zone, but desperate drivers may not care. As we go through here, down through the Porsche curves, now through the Ford curves, or the Corvette curves, I'm sorry. And maybe too far back to make a move is Cohen Evans, that Indiana machine. Not sure what he's going to try to do. It looks like he is several car lengths back. A little bit wide there for the yellow Corvette. Back through the final turn, and that will be across the line. Cohen Evans putting up a good fight, but not enough to grab that sixth position from Henry Morse.
And you saw it right there, just how important this clean driving is, as Evans got a great run in that first chicane, able to get all the way to the back end of Morse, but not able to complete the pass. Had lost just enough time in the Porsche curves that Morse was able to hang on to it in that sixth spot. Now we check in with Alexandre Piccini. Piccini, Coleman, and Covell still out on the track, coming to the checkered flag here. And Piccini going to be in that top 10 here tonight. You know he's going to love to see that.
Oh, that's awesome. And Piccini, Santa Maria Federal University, finishing well. You love to see it. You see that Ferrari looking good there as he comes by pit lane. He'll high-five his pit crew. A solid P9 for Alexander Piccini in the only Ferrari in this race. We pick up now the BMW, the only BMW of Trey Coleman, Virginia Commonwealth University, tiptoeing through the Ford chicanes. It looks like that nose has made some passes this race. He comes through the front, the VCU Rams, and it looks like that nose shows it. He's happy to cross the line and feeling good about it in that top 10 position. Awesome for Trey Coleman. Andrew Covell coming through in that Porsche, and he will now enter, and he will cross the line shortly.
Across the start-finish line, our final driver here tonight, Andrew Covell, going to cross the line in 11th, just missing out on that top 10. But that is going to do it for us here at the round 3 here at Le Mans. And now we're going to bring in your race winner into the booth, John D. Price. And John, you started off on the pole and you absolutely ran away with it. Talk to us about the race from your perspective, because looked like you just dominated Le Mans.
Yeah, well, I can certainly say I wasn't expecting to. I think I mentioned in the last race that I was not looking forward to Le Mans because I know it doesn't really suit the Porsche so well. But somehow we weren't too slow on the straights, and we were definitely moving through the Porsche curves and the chicanes and whatnot. The Porsche handles really well through there. But I was running about 1 degree of wing, so I was just focused on keeping it on track, not making any big mistakes. And I think I only really made 1 or 2 minor ones that didn't even cost me an off track. So I'm really happy with that. Not going to lie, I was just talking with Kevin, and I mentioned to him that in the practice for this, I never was able to do more than about 3 or 4 laps without crashing. So I'm really happy with what happened tonight.
Well, we were happy to watch you out there. And we said in the broadcast that we weren't sure about the Porsche if we had to pick a manufacturer to make it work tonight. I don't know that we would have chosen Porsche, but you certainly did. It was awesome to see you out there. How did the pit stop go? I guess you took out enough fuel. Did you take on any extra, and what were your thoughts? That was probably the closest that second place had been to you all night. Were you nervous for the pit stop?
Yeah, I mean, going into the pit stop was right when I made one of those mistakes, and so he was about half a second off me, I think, as we entered the pits. So I was definitely worried going into there, but I did some calculations beforehand, figured out what my fuel numbers were going to look like, and I took on just enough fuel. I had just enough for 1 extra lap right there at the end. The Porsche takes about 1.8 per lap, and I crossed the line, I think, with 1.85 or 1.87. So it was pretty borderline, but I took on just enough, and I guess Jared just slightly overfilled, it must have been, so just ended up working out for me like that.
Absolutely.
Well, that is awesome. Go ahead.
Well, a great win here tonight, Mr. Price. And anyone you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast before we send you to victory lane?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, UT Arlington, got to give a big shout out there, and Team Hardway Racing especially. as well as all my friends that are watching, and you guys for putting this on. Again, it's been a fantastic season so far, and I can't wait for the next 3 races.
And I tell you what, I think we finally nailed it. It only took us 3 races, but we nailed UT Arlington tonight.
Hey,
So
I appreciate it. I really do.
But congrats again on the win, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
That was John D. Price, your winner, and you heard it right there. He came in with a plan, and he really completed it here tonight.
He executed, and I'm interested to hear what P2 Jared Kaler has to say about that. UNC Charlotte chasing all night long.
So Jared Kaler into the booth now, joining us with his second place finish. And Jared, we saw you nose to tail with John Price there at the pit stop. Talk to us about that. What happened? What did you think he was going to do? Did you take more fuel than you thought? Walk us through that one.
I guess I just miscalculated the fuel. I thought I was burning 1.8 to 1.9 a lap, and that's what I was burning in practice. But apparently I was burning 1.6 a lap, so I just put in way too much fuel and just slowed down the pit stop way too much.
If you, we talked about the differences in car manufacturers and what we expected coming in tonight, and I think it's safe to say Jarrett and I were both pretty surprised. Are you happy with your choice of car in the Corvette? And would you choose something else if you had to again?
No, I was pretty satisfied with the Corvette. I think I messed up the setup a bit. I was losing a lot of front grip towards the end of the race. I was very surprised by the Porsche, how fast it was in a straight line, and then how fast it was in the turns. But I still probably would have chosen the Corvette. I felt like I was still a bit faster than John. But definitely, I think a better choice than like the BMW or the Ferrari or the Ford.
Gotcha. Well, I think the field definitely agreed with that. We saw a lot of Corvettes, a handful of Fords, a single Ferrari, and a single BMW. So I think that is an accurate assessment from what we saw this evening.
Absolutely. Well, Jared, do you have anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here on the broadcast before we send you?
Just you guys like last week. Thanks for putting it on. It's a lot of fun going out here and racing for an hour-long race. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, glad you enjoy it, and we're sure to see you again soon. Take it easy, all right?
You too.
All right, that was Jared Kaler, your second place finisher. And now let's bring in our third place finisher, Kevin Vu, here tonight. And Kevin, talk to us about that race. We saw you start off in the back, and you just continue to pick your way through the field. Did you think you might have had enough for the leaders if you had that opportunity? You started a little bit further up in the field, or what was your pace here at Le Mans like?
I think so. I started off really a little bit slower because so I'm not used to the Corvette like I am the BMW. So I didn't want to like go full aggressive out of the gate in case I like overshoot and like crash into someone. So I just kind of like drove a consistent sort of like try to hit my brake markers as I could as best I can, and then usually I drove like an endurance race where I would like lift so I could save some fuel and then set myself up for like the chicanes and then line myself try to be careful and just keep the car on the track and then warm into it.
Well, that is a really good way, and something that I'm sure the competitors will take note on, and we will too in the booth. It's fascinating to see you. We did notice that Jarrett said you noted your second lap in qualifying did not go as planned. Do you think that changed your outlook on the race? Did it change your race plan at all for that hour?
So after the first when I binned it, I was like, okay, I gotta set a proper lap. So I set a proper lap, and yeah, it did a little bit. I mean, my goal was like I carried a little bit from qualifying where I was like, okay, I can't be as aggressive here. I'll like readjust my brake bias, but the driving style stayed about the same, just a little more cautious here and there, so that the Corvette wouldn't be as shaky under the brakes.
Absolutely. So you talked about it in your first answer. You switched from the BMW to the Corvette. with the iRacing buff and nerf that happened.
It wasn't actually because of that. It was because the team I normally race with, we switched from the BMW to the Corvette. So I decided to switch the Corvette to be able to be consistent with my actual team and, race the same car as I usually do.
Well, that works for me. Take us through the biggest difference you found in those two cars tonight.
So the BMW, best way to describe it is the front engine rear drive. It just makes it really not planet, but it makes it a little bit more predictable if you're coming from your regular sort of car. The Corvette, it does drive, like compared to the Ferrari and the BMW and the Ford about the same. You expect like a mid-engine car to drive like that. The Corvette, it's a little bit, the brakes are a little bit different, but that's just something that I need to get used to more than um, the BMW. Then it's worse. Yeah, the BMW, it's a very easy car to start off with and then get fast. Whereas the Corvette it's there, but you need to be able to work with the Corvette. You can't fight it, and you have to have the same with the setup.
Absolutely. Well, turned out pretty good for you. Third place finish. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here on the broadcast?
So my usual team, Lithium Motorsports. That's the team that I run the Corvette with. Collegiate Racing because I run the Australian V8 supercars with them. Which coming from that to this it's a hand it's a lot easier. That one's a handful. This one, yeah, the brakes are a little bit harder, a little bit squirrely, but the actual car doesn't want to kill you like everywhere. Other than that, just UC Riverside for being the school that I work with the most. Yeah, and that's just it. It seems.
All right. Well, great to hear. Congrats again on that third place finish, and we're going to talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
All righty. That was Kevin Vu, your third place finisher. And Josh, as we start to look at the final standings here tonight, any surprises here from your top 12?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we saw, the names up front that we've seen, and they're starting to rise to the top. Vu, Hyatt, Evans, Price, Falkers, and all these guys up front that are showing how to get it done. And we talked about, some with teams, some with setups, some, very knowledgeable of the cars and the tracks. Others bringing in their, dirt or their karting experience or their experience in various arenas of motorsport. Theo Burns is a Porsche Cup engineer who's at Sebring right now. That's the reason you don't see his name up there. And if you saw it up there, it would probably be up in the top 10. So, certainly we are seeing some trends start to shake out now as we complete the third race in our 6-race season. And we will continue those trends and see what trends rise and fall as we go to Road America next week. So Road America, a popular track, a track that a lot of drivers will have some seat time at. And so different than Le Mans, we might see higher confidence levels. And we heard a couple times, right? The driver was in a new car, driver was getting used to it. Everybody, I think, will know a little bit more about what to expect next week. There will be no balance of performance between now and then in 2 weeks, sorry. And so I'm excited to see that come forward and see what these drivers do and see some new faces. Will Creor, we'll see what he does at Road America. Will Jared Kaler be able to beat out Kevin Vu and John Price as we go to Road America and do that in 2 weeks? So, and Roger Gregory, we know that he's on the UNC Charlotte team with Jared Kaler. Had a tough first lap today, but we'll be back in it hopefully in 2 weeks, and we'll look to see there what trends come about, who works together, and I think we're getting a really good glimpse at the talent that we have on tap here.
Absolutely. So before we run you through the final results here, we're going to turn it over to NextBookIt, the sponsor of tonight's round 3 at Le Mans, and we're going to talk to you again shortly.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it, but there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With NextBookIt, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use, and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just NextBookIt.
So as you just saw, NextBookIt's the next big thing for college students. It's a marketplace where you can buy and sell textbooks to and from other students all around the country. And as an incentive to sell your books, and in addition, with the Collegiate iRacing League, NextBookIt's offering an extra $10 on top of what you make on your first book sale. And you can use the code SAVECASH20, SAVECASH, SAVECASH20 for free shipping and no fees. What are you waiting for? NextBookIt this fall. So NextBookIt, the sponsor of the entire Collegiate iRacing League pilot season, and we could not do this without them. So a big shout out to NextBookIt. And if you want to check them out, you can check them out at the website, www.nextbookit.com. So John D. Price is going to be your race winner. Jared Kaler comes away second. Kevin Vu finishes third. Corey Hyatt in fourth. Aaron Folkerts comes away top 5. Henry Morse in sixth. Cohen Evans finishes seventh. Will Crehor in 8th, Alexandre Pacini in 9th, Trey Coleman in 10th, Andrew Covell in 11th, and Roger Gregory finishing in 12th. So Josh, you just mentioned next week we head to Road America. Do you have any big predictions for that one?
I don't know. This race broke all my predictions. I'm a little bit scared now. I don't know. So I mean, Road America, the long front stretch is about the only part that's going to be super long like that. I'm sorry, the before turn 1 and then after turn 2, before turn 3. Obviously, iRacing fans and race fans alike will be very familiar with Road America, one of the most popular courses just in North America, up in Wisconsin. So. And also one of the most popular in iRacing. So predictions, I think we'll see a similar mix of cars. I think we'll see VCU bring some more Corvettes. I know we had a couple drivers that were, busy for whatever reason. Sometimes there's school. I know if you are living in the United States, this was a special and possibly time-consuming evening and day for some of us. And so I think we felt that, and I do expect. I think we'll have a lot of familiar faces back. I think we'll have good spreads, more Ferraris, some more BMWs. I know VCU will have their cars. UNLV, I would look for their matching paint schemes. Whether it's a Corvette or a Ford or something new, they've brought both to our first 2 rounds at Spa and then Monza. But KT Jones and James Blouch very fast. Brett LeBlanc with UNLV. Yeah. Very fast. And so I think I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll see some fast laps at Road America. And that is all I'm willing to commit to for now. I will be surprised no more.
Absolutely. So the following week, not next week, but the following week, November 17th, we head to Road America, and then check back in on December 1st as we head back to Europe at Imola. And then we round out this pilot season December 15th at the Daytona Road Course. That should be a fun one to finish the season.
That is exciting. I'm looking for all 3 of those events. They're going to be a little bit different, and I'm eager to get to them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to everyone that's tuned in either live or you're watching this back after the fact. Always makes it well worth it to hear all the good things that you guys have to say. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope everyone had a good time, racers and viewers alike. Congrats again to John D. Price on the win here at Le Mans. If you want more Collegiate iRacing League action, tune in 2 weeks from now. as we head to Road America. If you want to join the Collegiate iRacing League, you can find us on iRacing or on various other platforms. You can search us on Twitter as well. So be sure to check us out there as well. So for Josh and I, we're going to sign off for you here tonight. Thanks again for joining. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you guys all again soon.